So, welcome back, and we now have an order that I've been waiting for a long time, which is the PlayStation VR2. Now, I do not have the charging stand with me today. It hasn't been delivered just yet. I thought DPD might send it with the headset, but they did not. But that's alright, we're just going to go for the headset, and I've been waiting for about 6 years for this thing, so very excited to go ahead and open it up. I'm not doing Ian Higton and pour it out on the floor. We love Ian, but that's very silly of him. Okay, let's quickly, there it is, open everything, take it all out of the box and get it all set out and ready to have a look at. And the first thing that strikes me, taking all of this out of the box, is how light that headset is. And of course we have the Sense controllers. Okay, let's get the box out of the way and get on to the real stuff. Let's start with the headset itself, which is actually smaller than I thought it would be. Based on what people were saying, I thought this was going to be a much bigger and chunkier headset. Now let's get it out of its wrapping. And of course we've got the proprietary cable, which is USB-C to multiple connections in the headset. And there it is, the PSVR2 in the, whatever it's made out of, in the plastic. So let's stick that under there. The cable seems to be very long, and what I'm going to do now actually is bring out my old PSVR1 and have a little comparison. So, I mean, they are pretty similar in terms of size. Let me bring this bad boy around. But even still, through this, you can kind of see how little or smaller the cable is. I mean, obviously this one's splayed out everywhere, but it is a far thinner cable from what I can see right here. So let's start with the front of the headset with the scope. PSVR2's is a lot smaller, it seems, a lot thinner, whereas the original PSVRs, I think it doesn't help that the face gasket comes out quite a lot, but we'll get onto that in a second. Obviously, starting at the front, you've got the light panels, 5 of them at the front, now replaced by the inside-out tracking cameras, which is amazing. Can't wait to see the improvement in tracking and see how it matches to the Quest. You have now lens adjustment dial. That seems like a very smooth turn on there. I was wondering how that's going to feel, whether it be kind of like a ratcheted feel, but it is fairly smooth. Obviously none of that on the PSVR1. The headset adjustment button is in the same place. This is the V2 model of the PSVR1 though, so I think the original might have had it underneath. The actual padding for your head seems a lot more reinforced on the PSVR2. If I lift this up, you can see there's quite a lot of protection going on over here. Same with the back, and you can even see a little bit of the face gasket inside. Seems a lot more substantial, but we'll get onto that obviously in a second. Whereas the PSVR1, this material really wasn't the best. It came off quite easily, and I'm glad to see that from what I can feel, the PSVR2's material here feels a lot more robust. This would start to flake, and I've actually owned 2 of these headsets, and the first one did start to flake quite substantially. You can also see a little bit hanging off here, so quality wasn't really the best with some of the parts of the PSVR1. So let's flip this one over. I'm completely okay with flipping over my PSVR1 because I'm not going to use it, but I'm going to handle this one with care when flipping it over. And I just want to say it's quite light. It's a lot lighter than I thought it would be for the VR2. So got the on button, the pass-through button, and the microphone down there. Pretty much the same setup and layout as the PSVR1, which is absolutely filthy down here, so you gotta ignore that. Except we had some volume controls here, which used to be on a button on the cable with the version 1, but the power button is in the same place. Okay, so moving on, taking these to the side, we have the face gasket, which seems so much more substantial on the VR2. That's going to cover so much more light, and I can't wait when I get my full review out after I've tested a couple games for maybe a week or so, how that really compares, because the originals, there wasn't really too much to it. This was all you got. This part of the face gasket was all you got, and it really didn't cover too much light. Same with the nose at the bottom. You now have a 2 gasket system at the bottom for the nose, where on the VR1 you only had the one there, and it really wasn't the most comfortable. But it seems like with the PSVR2 that is going to be rectified. And the final things we have to look over are the back of the head strap, which obviously has the same nice material on the VR2. That's so much more kind of resistant and spongy, I would say, from first impression. And exactly, I mean, it looks like it's the same model, exactly the same way of storing the headphones that come with it, that are stored on the back, which are stored underneath on the bottom. And with pretty much the same twisting ratchet method of tightening the head strap. Seems to be identical on the PSVR2, so yeah. Pretty much the same setup with some different changes, and I can't wait to get into the headset for real and testing it out. So let me put this PSVR original headset away and come on to my second comparison of the day now that we've shifted this out of the way. I do want to say this does feel very light, the PSVR2. Its build quality feels really good, but it does feel quite light. Very interested to see how these feel. Very interested. And they're a lot thinner than I thought they would be. I imagined... Here's for a bit of comparison, the Move controllers from the PSVR 1. They're actually thicker on the handle than the Sense controllers are. These feel incredibly light. And now I understand what people were saying when they felt light. This feels really not heavy at all. I could see myself using these for quite a long time. So going over everything on here, you've got the port at the bottom for charging, and I'll stick these on charge in a second just so I have them ready. Obviously the triggers, which are now haptic triggers. The grip button, which I didn't really understand when the reviewers said it was more like a button rather than a button with travel, like the Oculus Quest 2 is, or the Meta Quest 2 is. This is just a clicky button for the grip button, which is weird to me because I'm used to the Meta Quest design. The joystick is actually very small. I didn't expect it to be this small on the controller. Obviously the Create button's the same size as it is on the normal DualSense. Speaking of which, I'll go grab one now, and you can kind of see how small that joystick is compared to the PS5's DualSense. Really interesting, and obviously the buttons feel very tactile and clicky. They have a lot less give to them than the DualSense buttons. They click in shorter, they feel kind of like they bounce back more. And I would compare the charging dock with the PS5 charging dock for the Sense controller charging dock if I had mine, but unfortunately it hasn't been shipped just yet, which is okay, because I don't need that to play. But there we go. I'll have to stick these on charge with the USB-C cable, but you know, I've got plenty of those. And if you do own a PS5, which I hope you do if you've bought one of these, you should have a USB-C cable with that. Anyway, so there we go. I'm not really looking to see any issues with FPS games because, say if you're holding a pistol maybe, because the rings might obstruct each other. Not for tracking, but just for hand position and feeling. But yeah, they seem really good. Can't wait to test this out. And ready to go. Speaking of which, I'll have to open this box to do so, because this will have all of the cables and hopefully my Horizon code in it if it hasn't been lost in the post, which it has got inside, so I'll do that in a second. Manuals, who reads them, and the headphones, which I'm assuming will be better than the original ones for the PSVR. Partly because of Tempest Audio, and partly because it's just newer hardware, so I'm sure the tech in those headphones is going to be better than the original was. So yeah, can't wait to make some content with this thing. I'm going to go get it all set up now. Hope you've enjoyed this little comparison and first impressions. Everything here feels really robust and good, and I can't wait to get testing it out for the first time and creating videos with it. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.